There comes a moment in every man's life when silence hits harder than words, when being seen stops mattering and being respected becomes non-negotiable. This video isn't a pep talk. It's not comfort. It's confrontation. Because if you've been ghosted, ignored, laughed at, used, if you've ever watched her eyes dim with boredom while you bent over backward to please her, this message is for you. Not the mask you wear in public, not the smiles you force, but the man behind the curtain, the man you know you were born to be but forgot how to become. So hear me now and hear me clearly. Respect is not given. It is not asked for. It is earned through boundaries, through presence, through silence. And today, we begin reclaiming yours. I'm about to give you 5 boundaries, unshakable, masculine, and magnetic. Not to control women, not to manipulate people, but to protect your soul from being watered down by a world that wants you soft, apologetic, and confused. If you're ready to draw the line, if you're ready to live with standards, not excuses, drop a comment right now. I choose respect, because from this moment on, we stop chasing respect. We start embodying it. Let's begin. Boundary number 1, never reward disrespect. You're not going to see it coming. Disrespect never enters like a slap. It enters like a joke, a playful eye roll, a subtle dig in front of her friends, a moment where your voice is talked over, your dreams minimized, your presence made into a punchline, and you laugh it off. You say, she's just emotional. You tolerate, you adjust, you rationalize. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you accept even the smallest form of disrespect, you teach her something dangerous. You teach her that your standards are flexible, that your spine is negotiable. And women, whether they know it or not, begin to test even harder. Not because they're evil, but because they're wired to seek strength. They want to feel your edge. And the moment they realize you have none, the pedestal collapses. It doesn't matter how loyal you are. It doesn't matter how much you love her. It doesn't even matter how long you've been together. A woman cannot stay inspired by a man she no longer respects. And here's where most men fail. They try to earn back that respect with apologies, with gifts, with effort. But it's already too late. Because respect isn't recovered with kindness. It's recovered with standards. Listen to me closely. Disrespect is not something you confront loudly. You confront it calmly. You say, that won't happen again. No yelling, no begging, just truth. And if it happens again, you walk, not in anger, not to manipulate, but because you respect yourself too much to entertain any environment that dishonors your dignity. The man who allows one offense will soon allow many. And the more you compromise, the smaller you become. And she'll feel it. She'll stop trying. She'll stop respecting. And eventually, she'll stop loving. Here's the secret few men understand. You don't correct disrespect to change her. You do it to protect yourself. Because once you start allowing little cuts to your pride, you bleed out slowly, invisibly, until you look in the mirror one day and can't recognize the man staring back. So from today on, understand this. You don't raise your voice to command respect. You raise your standards. You don't throw tantrums. You don't lecture. You don't prove anything. You just hold the line. And if she crosses it, you don't flinch. You remove your presence. Because your presence is a gift. And any woman, any friend, any environment that disrespects it no longer deserves it. Say less, mean more, walk away if you must, but never reward disrespect. There's a storm most men live inside without even realizing it. A storm of noise, of people pulling, of women testing, of opinions, expectations, drama, all demanding one thing from you: your peace. But here's the brutal truth, brother. If you don't guard your peace, you will be used until there's nothing left of you but a hollow shell pretending to be strong, pretending to lead, pretending to live. A man without peace is a man constantly at war, with the world, with others, and worst of all, with himself. He wakes up tired. He over-explains. He argues with people who don't deserve a second of his time. He replies to every disrespectful text. He entertains every ounce of drama just to feel less alone. And slowly, painfully, he dies inside. Understand this. Peace isn't a luxury. It's not a spa day. It's not candles and quiet music. It's war. It's the war you fight every single day to protect your time, your mind, and your soul. You see, peace doesn't just happen. You don't stumble into it. You build it. You defend it like a king defends his crown. And you don't need to announce it. The world will feel it. They'll feel it in how slowly you speak, how calmly you move, how selectively you engage. And women? They sense it instantly. They know when your mind is still and when it's spinning. They know when your time is expensive and when it's cheap. If your peace is easily stolen by a mood swing, a test, or a look, you are not a man. You are a puppet. And no woman respects a puppet. She wants to feel your stillness, not your reaction, not your need to prove anything, not your fear of her walking away. She wants to feel that when chaos knocks, you don't flinch, you just stare back, unfazed. Because real peace isn't passive. It's power. It's the power to say no without guilt, to walk away from drama without explanation, to let people misunderstand you and never feel the need to correct them. That's strength. That's control. That's what separates men who lead from men who beg. So how do you guard your peace? You become unavailable to chaos. Not because you're cold, not because you're scared, but because you've outgrown it. You clean your space, you train your body, you design your routine, you monitor your inputs, the media, the messages, the moods of others. And with everything that enters your life, you ask one question: does this protect my peace or poison it? And if it poisons it, it's gone. No arguments, no explanations, no second chances. You owe no one your energy. You don't show up out of obligation. You don't entertain disrespect to avoid being rude. You don't stay in rooms that drain you just because you're scared of being alone. You walk because you are building something sacred. You begin enjoying silence more than noise, stillness more than stimulation, solitude more than shallow company. Not because you're antisocial, but because you've found your center. And here's what no one tells you. When a woman pulls away, when she tests you, when she gives you coldness, she's not attacking. She's feeling for your center. She's trying to see if you'll collapse. She's asking in her own way, can I trust this man's energy to hold steady when mine is in chaos? And if every time she pokes, you panic, you've already lost. But if you hold the silence longer than her confusion, if you stay still instead of chasing, if you choose to remain grounded rather than reactive, then she feels something rare. She feels peace. She feels masculine gravity. And that pulls her in more powerfully than any compliment, gift, or romantic gesture ever could. Because deep down, she doesn't want to lead. She wants to relax, to surrender, to lean into your stillness. But she can only do that when you guard it first. So stop arguing with clowns. Stop over-explaining to people who don't listen. Stop leaking your peace to every text, every test, every slight disrespect. Instead, do this. Speak less. Move slower. Say no more often. Answer with presence, not panic. Create space around your energy so thick only the worthy dare enter it. And watch how everything changes. The noise disappears. The wrong people fall away. And the ones who value strength begin to orbit around you. Because in a world of chaos, the man who guards his peace becomes a magnet, not for drama, but for respect, for loyalty, for power. Peace isn't passive. It's the final form of strength. And once you taste it, you'll never trade it again. Not for her, not for anyone, not even for love. There's a part of you she should never fully see, not because you're hiding, not because you're deceptive, but because mystery is power. In a world that screams, open up, be vulnerable, spill everything. A rare man does the opposite. He holds back. He reveals slowly. He lets her wonder. You've been lied to, brother. You were told that honesty means full exposure, that love requires confession, that bonding is built by handing over your emotional blueprints the moment you feel safe. But I want you to look back. Every time you opened up too fast, every time you unloaded your fears, your wounds, your shadows, did she lean in closer? Or did something change? Did the sparkle in her eye dull? Just a little? You thought you were building trust, but what you were really doing was bleeding out your power. Here's the truth. Women don't fall for men they fully understand. They fall for men they feel, but can't quite grasp. Men with emotional depth, not emotional dependency. Men with substance, not emotional spillage. A high-value woman doesn't want a man who confesses every crack in his soul. She wants a man who can carry his burdens without placing them in her hands. Because here's what you don't hear in those cute therapy speak videos online. When you share everything too soon, you shift the dynamic. You stop being the solid ground and become the shaky story. You stop being her anchor and become her project. And no woman, I repeat, no woman desires a man she has to fix. This doesn't mean you lie. It doesn't mean you fake strength. It means you lead with presence, not with your wounds. You don't emotionally vomit on the first date. You don't text her long essays about your past heartbreaks. You don't spill your insecurities hoping she'll patch them up. You hold your line, because the man who respects himself doesn't need to be validated. He doesn't perform vulnerability. He embodies it, slowly, strategically, when trust is earned. Strategic vulnerability. That's what separates a powerful man from an oversharing boy. You see, true bonding isn't built by exposure. It's built by experience, by shared moments, by silence, by her feeling you, not decoding you. Let her discover you like a mountain, layer by layer, elevation by elevation. Because when you give away the summit too quickly, there's no reason for her to climb. So here's what you do instead. You treat your story like sacred ground, not a free tour, not a brochure, not a podcast of your past pain. You reveal in fragments. You give glimpses, not galleries. When she asks, you answer with clarity and restraint, not avoidance, not coldness, but depth carefully curated. Let her earn the next layer of you. Let curiosity become the glue. Because when she has to guess, when she senses your emotional depth but can't see all of it, that's when desire grows. That's when respect deepens. You don't owe the world your insides. You don't owe your date your trauma. You don't need to be understood to be loved. You need to be respected. And respect is not built on oversharing. It's built on emotional sovereignty. Your ability to hold your own weather without making it rain on her. You master your inner storms. You journal your pain. You sit with it. You process it in solitude, in discipline, in silence. because a man who can carry his own weight without leaning on others for emotional rescue becomes the kind of man people gravitate toward, not out of pity, but out of admiration. So what does this look like in practice? You speak less than you listen. You never use vulnerability to seek validation. You share from wholeness, not from a bleeding wound. You allow space for her questions and only answer what feels earned. When she says, "Tell me everything about you," you smile and say, "In time." Not to manipulate, but to preserve polarity, because the second she sees every corner of your heart too soon, you stop being mystery. And mystery is what keeps the feminine engaged. Final words on this boundary. The man who speaks constantly becomes background noise, but the man who holds his center, who reveals his soul in fragments, not floods, becomes unforgettable. She doesn't crave the man who bleeds out for her. She craves the one who walks with scars and still stands tall, still moves with purpose, still carries silence like a crown. The less you reveal, the more they lean in, and the more you value your story, the more they will too. Let me tell you something most men never learn. The most powerful man in the room is not the loudest, not the angriest, not the one throwing furniture or punching walls. It's the man who feels everything, but reacts to nothing. The world wants you reactive. Your woman wants to see if you'll flinch. Your boss wants to see if you'll crack. Your enemies want to watch you explode. Because when you react, you become predictable. You become manageable. You give away your power, one emotional outburst at a time. Emotional reactivity is slavery. It means your buttons are out in the open, and anyone who finds one can control you. You think you're just being honest. You think you're expressing your truth. But what you're really doing is bleeding control. You feel slighted, so you argue. You feel hurt, so you chase. You feel insulted, so you explode. And every time you do, you prove to the world, I don't lead myself. My emotions do. That's not power. That's weakness in disguise. So what does it look like to be emotionally sovereign? It means when she tests you with silence, with sarcasm, with withdrawal, you don't scramble. You don't chase. You don't beg her to come back to her senses. You stay still. You observe. You respond only when it serves your mission. Not your ego, not your need for validation, not your panic. Because the second your mood depends on her behavior, you've already lost her respect. You ever notice this? A woman pulls away. She gets cold. She stops replying with the same energy. And your stomach twists. Your brain goes into overdrive. You send the long text. You try to fix it. You reach out again and again and again. She hasn't even spoken, but she's already leading you. That's emotional reactivity, and it kills masculine polarity. It turns you from the mountain into the wind, from the grounded man she once leaned on to the emotional mess she now has to manage. The masculine does not chase storms. It weathers them. It doesn't panic in the thunder. It becomes the quiet under it. Your power is in your pause, the space between what happens and how you choose to respond. Most men don't have that pause. They live like emotional puppets, dancing every time someone tugs a string. But the rare man, the man who owns his inner world, he rewrites the rules. He doesn't rush to explain himself. He doesn't defend himself to people who misunderstand him. He doesn't react to every look, tone, or passive-aggressive test. He sees through it, and then he either engages with precision or says nothing at all. Because silence, when used intentionally, is louder than any emotional rant. Here's what happens when you become emotionally disciplined. Women stop testing you as often. People start choosing their words more carefully around you. You stop attracting chaos and start attracting respect. Why? Because energy is contagious, and a calm man calms the room, while a reactive man feeds the fire. So when she raises her voice, you lower yours. When she gets moody, you get centered. When the world pushes, you stand. This doesn't mean you shut down. It means you've mastered the space between emotion and action. Let me be clear, this is not about coldness. This is about control. This is not emotional repression. This is emotional maturity. You still feel, you still get hurt, you still get angry, but you choose with precision who gets to see it, who gets access to that fire, and 90% of the time, they don't deserve it. You want to change your life? You want her to lean back into you? You want to be the man people respect? Then stop being a slave to every feeling. Stop treating every impulse like a command. Stop letting the mood of the moment dictate the direction of your life. Start practicing calm dominance. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything. The kind that doesn't react to bait. The kind that pauses, breathes, and then moves with clarity. Because once you stop reacting to every pull, every poke, every emotional jab, you become unshakable. You become the eye of the storm. And that's when she begins to lean in again. That's when the world stops testing and starts respecting. So next time your emotions flare up, don't explode. Don't chase. Don't fold. Pause. Breathe. Lead. Because a man who cannot lead himself will never be followed by anyone worth having. There's one boundary that changes everything. More than self-control, more than emotional strength, more than confidence or charisma. It's the quiet, sacred ability to do one thing. To walk away. Not in anger, not in fear, but in power. Because until you are willing to walk away, you will always be owned. Owned by her approval. Owned by your boss's validation. Owned by your fear of the unknown. Let's break this down. Why do most men stay? They stay in toxic relationships, in draining jobs, in circles that mock their growth. Not because they believe it'll change, but because they're afraid of what's on the other side. Afraid of starting over. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of letting go of the familiar pain. Because it's more comfortable than the unfamiliar freedom. And that's how men shrink. Not in one big moment, but in 1,000 silent decisions to stay small. But a man who can walk away, he is free. Because he knows his soul is not for sale. Because he's loyal to his standards, not his circumstances. And women, they feel it. They know when you're staying out of fear. They know when you're clinging because you need her energy to feel whole. And they will test you for it. They'll pull back. They'll push buttons. They'll disrespect boundaries. Not because they want you gone, but because they want to know. Will he leave when I cross the line? Is he with me because he chooses to be, or because he fears losing me? And if your answer is weakness, if you fold, chase, beg, compromise, the respect dies right there. But when you carry the quiet strength of a man who can walk, when your presence says, I will never betray myself to keep you, everything changes. You don't even need to raise your voice. You don't need threats. You don't need ultimatums. Your calm is the line. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. And that energy, that calm willingness to lose anyone but yourself, forces everyone around you to rise or to leave. And let them leave. Let the wrong ones walk. Let dead situations die. Because your soul was never meant to be trapped in a cage made of fear. This is not about being cold. It's about being clear. Clear about what you deserve. Clear about what you'll never tolerate again. Clear about what version of yourself you refuse to kill just to make others comfortable. Walking away doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but you care about yourself first. It's saying, I love you, but not at the expense of my self-respect. I value this job, but I refuse to work under a system that robs me of meaning. I want connection, but not if I have to abandon my values to get it. Most men think staying is strength, but sometimes staying is surrender. Real strength is walking away without needing to be chased, without needing a dramatic goodbye. Just gone. Not because you're heartless, but because your soul no longer fits inside the space you were trying to shrink it into. You don't announce it. You don't argue about it. You just move with quiet certainty in the direction of your standards. And here's the result. When you become the kind of man who will walk away when respect leaves the room, you become the kind of man who doesn't need to ask for respect, because it walks in with you. You stop attracting chaos. You stop begging for love. You stop compromising with people who never deserved access in the first place. Instead, you start living in alignment. And alignment is magnetic. Alignment is peace. Alignment is power. So what does this look like in real life? You leave the room when disrespect enters. You walk from the woman who tests you one too many times. You resign from the job that pays well but poisons your spirit. You detach from the friend group that mocks your evolution. You say goodbye, not in bitterness, but in clarity. Every time you walk away from something beneath you, you rise. And every time you stay where you don't belong, you sink. Ask yourself, what are you tolerating today that the strongest version of you would have already walked away from? Where are you staying small, just because leaving feels uncomfortable? What would your life look like if you only stayed in places where your soul could breathe? Final truth. You don't have to scream. You don't have to explain. You don't have to wait for one more red flag. You simply choose your dignity over your discomfort. You choose peace over attachment. You choose the man you're becoming over the world trying to make you forget him. When you can walk away, you stop needing to be chosen. You stop chasing what's not yours. You stop bleeding for approval. And you start rising. Not louder, not faster, but higher. Because the man who is willing to walk away, he is already free.